Well, good afternoon. You okay?
Hi, yes, thank you. Are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I've really been looking forward to this podcast.
Thank you.
I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to do this. But I do think a lot of people will find value in our conversation, those that work with children and beyond, to be honest with you. But as I say to everybody, do you mind just giving kind of like a short synopsis to introduce yourself? Would that be all right?
No, that's fine.
Oh, wicked. Thank you.
So I'm Emma Twigg. I'm at this moment in time the programme leader for the Early Childhood Studies degree programme at the University of Derby, which studies childhood between 0 and 8 years. And that is something that I've been doing for the last 13 years, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
Just a little bit about my background. I left school and went to college, and I studied what was the nursery nursing course, so the NNEB, which some people may have heard of, some people may not have. And then I went to work in nurseries, sort of made my way up to becoming a manager of a day nursery. And then I've sort of moved between different jobs, really. So from working within a nursery, I went and worked for a training agency where I trained practitioners in NVQs. And it was really lovely because I was able to go and meet people within their work settings. And then sort of after 5 years, I moved to local authority and became a childcare improvement officer. And again, that was really lovely because I was working actually with settings then and supporting them for their Ofsted inspections. And then when they'd had an Ofsted inspection, I then supported them with any recommendations and then moved to the university from there. So I've really had sort of a wide range of different settings, really.
Oh, fantastic. Looking forward to it. Okay, cool. It'd be great if we could kind of start with your either motivation or your inspiration to go into early childhood studies and into nurseries. Was it something you wanted to do from school, or was there someone in the family or something that you saw which made you want to take that path, and kind of what was your journey, I guess?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. And when I look back, I really don't know what inspired me, but I just remember that from a very, very young age, I always wanted to work with children. I moved from wanting to be a nanny, thinking about going abroad, to wanting to be a midwife. And so, yeah, in any realm, I just knew I wanted to work with children, but I can't just pin it down to what it was that inspired me, really. I suppose I am the oldest of 4 children, so it could be my siblings, could have been looking after those or helping my mum look after those. I can't just pinpoint that, to be fair.
Okay, fair enough. And the route that you took, nursery, obviously, for me, you must have fell in love with it to stick with it. A lot of people dip their toe in different year groups, Key Stage 2, Key Stage 1, nursery and stuff like that, and then decide it's not for them and explore other avenues. What made you stay in the early years and that age group, should I say?
I think I had really good foundations. The course that I did from college, I had to be interviewed for. I had to do a test to go on the course. And so I was taught by some really inspiring people, which I suppose has led me to be very, very passionate about the early years. And you're right, I have always had that link in whatever I've done. And I think it's the fact that I find that children are very curious. They're very unpredictable when they're young. And I like that. I like the fact that they come out with little terms or little sentences that you think, gosh, that is so clever that you've thought about that. And they have their own minds.
Yeah. And I think it's, well, for me, I've got nieces and nephews. I haven't got children myself, but the range of confidence in the children, you do get some children that aren't very confident to start off with, but it's hilarious when they'll give anything a go. Yeah. They don't mind being wrong.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess sometimes they have much higher level of resilience than adults because they don't mind of getting embarrassed. That's for me is quite funny, I do find.
And I think with children, they're very honest.
Yeah.
I'll never forget a time when I was working in the nursery and I had a spot on my chin and one of them came up to me and said, "What's that on your chin?" And I think it's just lovely.
Sometimes too honest.
Yes.
Sometimes a bit brutal.
Exactly.
But I guess it makes the day go quicker.
Yes.
You know, you have fun.
Yeah.
It's a job where the children can make you laugh.
Yeah.
And they don't mean to. They're being very serious.
Yes. I think when I worked in the nursery, it was lovely because I was a key worker.
Okay.
So I had a group of children that I was responsible for. I loved the fact that I was able to plan activities for them, plan activities that I knew that the children would love. And I really enjoyed that side of it.
Okay. And what was your mindset beyond going to college? Because a lot of people will go to college, they do a qualification, and then they go and get work and have a great career and enjoy life and stuff like that. What made you know that you wanted to go to university after college? And would you recommend that route to other people?
Well, interestingly, I didn't go to university after college.
Oh, okay.
So I would say that I'm probably a classic lifelong learner.
Okay.
So I actually didn't go to university until I was in my early 30s.
Okay.
And I had children myself. And when I worked for the local authority as the improvement officer, it was really good at the time because it was when New Labour came into power and their emphasis was very much on early years. And so they funded practitioners to do their degrees. And it wasn't until, that period of my life that I wanted to decide to go and do a degree. And
Okay.
So I wasn't the traditional route.
Oh, I didn't know that. And so it's great that you can go to university later then. So you can enjoy your job, you know, and then you don't have to decide straight away after college or at a young age.
That's
so
right.
Do you reckon there's benefits of being, is it mature student?
Yes.
Yeah,
that's
there's
right.
benefits of being a mature student. I would presume you're more certain in your decision because you've got life experience and you decide, and you know what, this is going to add value to my life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I think both routes to university are equally as good.
Okay.
I mean, I think the progression from college to university, I think if that's what you want to do and stick within that sort of learning, I think that's fine. But also I do agree with you. I think having experiences behind you, and I think sometimes that helps you to maybe decide that actually, I do want to go on and do something more really.
Yeah.
I worked within a nursery that really looked after their staff as far as training. So I did go on a lot of training courses that kept me up to date with things. But I felt that I wanted to study more for myself, really, by going to university. So I actually am an alumni for the Early Childhood Studies degree, not actually in Derby.
Okay.
I went to Teesside University in Middlesbrough. And then I actually have done a master's again later in life.
Okay.
I did a master's in childcare law and practice. That was at Keele University. And then I'm now doing my PhD.
No way. So would you say, how difficult was it to go in to do a master's later and when you had a gap in academia? Because for me, I would feel like, I've lost kind of like the flow of being in education. Do you know what I mean? Did you find it quite all right to pick up? For a lot of people, I'm just talking to people out there that, for example, are thinking of it in later in life, but thinking, I'm not academic enough, there's too much of a gap since education. Yes. And do you kind of get a little bit of a, like when you go to university, you get that first year that counts, but it's kind of a softer year.
Yes.
Is that still the same when you're a mature student?
Same. Okay. Again, it was slightly different for me because I'd worked within establishments where I'd done training courses and I'd got the experience behind me. I actually didn't need to go back and do the whole 3 years at university. I only needed to do the 2 years. Okay. And that is a route that a lot of people can do, depending on qualifications that they've done beforehand. They can either come in at stage 2, which is year 2, or year 3. Okay. So that was really good. And I think then once I'd got into learning and knowing about theories. I'm fascinated by different theories and then testing those sort of when you go into practice. It made me want to learn more.
Yeah.
And I think by that time, I was in the university environment.
Yeah.
So I really wanted to pursue to a master's then.
Oh, so kind of going to uni reinforced your decision.
Yeah.
This is the right place for me.
Yes.
It's feeding the hunger to learn more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, great stuff.
Yeah.
And so your route into nurseries, and how has it changed a lot since then? Because there's a lot of new science that have come out. I know it's always been important, but I keep reading new things talking to us about the importance of early development, and also a lot of the other key stages are learning things about changing lessons through immersive learning. A lot of people, I've learned a lot. I'm acting like I know what I'm talking about, but I've learned a lot recently about immersive learning from early years and how it's helped the development of lessons across the key stages.
Yes.
But yeah, how important it is the early years and the nursery stages, I guess academically, but also socially for the children.
Yeah, it's moved on in leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
I mean, since I went to college, there have been so many different initiatives.
Yeah.
Like I say, I keep talking about the Labour government when they came in and they sort of pumped all that money into early years. I think, research has definitely supported that. And I think that's the other thing that interests me. Mm-hmm. Being at university, I'm able to be at the forefront of conducting that research. And that is so exciting.
Yeah.
And being able to see different ways that children do learn. And there has always been that emphasis that the early years is the most crucial time for children. Yeah. But I think we have strengthened the knowledge of that through the research that we have done.
Yeah.
I think the only thing we've just got to be very careful of is that we're not always preparing children for adulthood. That's one thing that I always sort of think about a lot, that we are actually preparing children for them now, for them being within their own childhood phase. And I think that's really important for us to think about.
Yeah. We're not always, right, what do you want to be when you're older? I'm 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be Superman. Right, good answer. That's it. No, fair enough. And the way they learn from child to child is so different as well, isn't it? So when you in nurseries, what fascinates me is it dependent on, I guess, do you see a big gap in some of the children as well? Like there's a lot of different skills, I guess, when you work in nurseries. For example, some children may be a lot further ahead than other children. You've got to bridge that gap because of, I don't know, some parents may have done more educational stuff with them, or they might have interacted with more children, or there may be a single child. So only child, something out. And how difficult is it, I guess, in EYFS, because it's the first taster for a child for education, but I don't just want to say education as well. It's more of the first step into the world, isn't it? You know, the first step into having a peer, having hierarchy that's not the home unit and stuff like that. So, is it, you know, because a lot of them flourish, but a lot of them, I do ask this sometimes of people that work in nursery and stuff, like when they don't want to let go of mum and dad, and you've got to kind of you start off the bad guy and then you finish off they don't ever want to leave you. Like, what's that like?
I think it's really interesting because we've got to be very careful because there's some competing ideas there.
Okay.
So one of them is, yes, we have the early years foundation stage, which has targets that children have to achieve, which I understand we need to be detailing children's progression. But equally, I think we've got to still look at the child as being an individual, as you say. They're very unique. We've got to be very careful we don't make comparisons, which I know it's very, very easy to do. And so I think we have to just be very careful about that, really. Okay. And celebrate each child as they are. I do appreciate if children are having difficulties or they've been in difficult environments. We definitely need to support them within those situations. But again, that's unique to that particular child. Yeah. So being able to provide that individualized care is really important. However, it's very, very difficult. I do appreciate within settings.
Yeah. Okay. What's what's the best thing you've loved about working in nurseries? And yeah, with the children or the parents or the staff, or I guess for yourself, what you look back on that you loved the most?
I like the fact that I've been able to develop very strong relationships with the children. I think being a key worker to those children, they really enjoy coming to see you in the mornings. There are mornings, like you say, where they don't want to leave mum and dad, which I totally understand. But you're part of their lives. Yeah. And I can see that they will draw on that when they do get older, that they will think back to those times. I think as well, working with parents, I've really enjoyed working with parents, developing those relationships with parents. And I think sometimes they look on you as the expert. They will ask you for advice. Yeah. And I know you can give that from sort of a knowledge perspective. Whether that works in practice is a different matter. Yeah. But I've really enjoyed those two aspects, and working as part of a team. Yeah. Even though you are responsible for your own children, you work within a bigger team of people. And I think it's really important that you do have that support as well.
Yeah, yeah. When you went to different sites and you said you supported them getting through Ofsted.
Yes.
That's really interesting. I didn't know you did that job. So how did that work? And the reason why I'm asking is because was it quite a clinical role where you're like, right, paperwork in order, this, that, and the other, but it must be quite an emotional time for, I guess, a team getting ready for that, anticipating it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to ask for some magic tips here. There's loads of people like, how do you ace an Ofsted?
Oh, gosh.
But yeah, what's your best piece of advice for people that have got an Ofsted coming up, or what you find repeating yourself quite a lot to people when you were going place to place maybe, or...
I mainly supported childminders, which was really interesting. Okay. And so there are challenges for childminders themselves in that they work on their own. Yeah. They don't necessarily work with a team. Okay. So we were actually quite a good support for childminders. Yeah. I would say the most important is safeguarding. Yeah. And this is something that I have developed sort of an interest in over my time within early years. I teach one of our modules, which is child protection at the university. I'm doing my research on the representation of children who've experienced domestic abuse. So I think you have to make sure that your safeguarding procedures are in place, you have a safe environment, and I would say that is your grounding, really. Yeah.
Okay. And for example, what I was going to ask you is just completely left my head as well. Yeah. So you said you're in research. We spoke about this a little bit before. So not only do you lead a course at the University of Derby, you do research as well on top of. What research do you do? Because I didn't know this about you before.
Okay. So when I started at the university, I taught a module called Play and Creativity, which we do still have as part of the programme. It's slightly changed in its title. And so I was involved in some research with our students. And what we were looking at, so this module is actually... planned, so they have like a theory-based session at the start of the module, and then they have practical sessions towards the end. And we wanted to see what students gained from those practical sessions. And it was really interesting because what came out of it was that it's really important that students and practitioners experience what they are going to be providing for children. Oh. And it was interesting as well because practitioners were experiencing what children feel. So when they were touching the paint, they didn't like the paint. But then it helps them think about what they are then providing for children, because there's some children that don't like touching paint or touching sensory materials. So that was a piece of really interesting research that I did there.
That's interesting. I've never needed to think of that. So, and I've learned recently through the podcast and subsequent conversations and previous conversations prior to podcasts, is a big thing people talk about is things happening with a child, not to a child. And definitely. I guess even when you break it down like that sounds such a simple thing, but it's easy for people never to think of that.
Definitely.
And if you've if you've never experienced it and you don't want to touch pain, that's such a strange thing to think of. That's actually a huge thing to a child, you know, and probably can get anxiety over that. All the other children getting involved, and that child's being told to, there you go, or sand or wet and stuff like that. And I guess they're allowed a voice too to say, I don't want to do that.
Absolutely.
I don't like that.
Yeah. And not be involved in an activity if they don't want to. Okay. One of the other things we do with students, and that came out of this research as well, we take them outside. We take them outside when it's snowing, when it's raining. Yeah. Again, so they get that experience. They understand the importance of providing all these different activities and environments for children.
No way. So in essence, let's see how you feel.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay. And if you don't like cold, I'm a sun worshipper. You know, and you're telling a child, off you go and play in the snow. I don't want to.
Never come to the University of Derby without a coat or your wellies.
Yeah. We've spoke a little bit there about sensory and play, I guess. How important is, because I talk a lot within earlier settings with people and nurseries about play, and how important is that type of learning in a nursery setting for children and their development in different ways? So
important. It's fun. Yeah. It's flexible. It's very child initiated. Yeah. They can do what they want. And it's just enjoyable. And I think we've got to be very careful that we don't lose this aspect of play within the early years or within early childhood. I know sometimes we talk very much about educational outcomes for children. And I understand that we need to have these developmental stages in the back of our mind. But play, it's exploratory, it's sensory. Yeah. My gosh, what you can do within a play environment or within play is just, it's never ending and it's open-ended. Yeah. There's not necessarily an outcome at the end of that.
There's just different experiences, which is open for interpretation for the child. Absolutely. Which is unique to the child.
Exactly. It goes back to that individual child. They can make... you can give a child a box. Yeah. You will know this, and they will make it into a house. They'll make it into a car. They'll make it into a boat, and it's just brilliant. And I think that's the other thing to think about, that when you're providing play opportunities for children, you don't necessarily always need equipment. Yeah. They can just go outside without the equipment. Yeah. You could, like I say, you can provide boxes for children, and they will do what they want with it. And I think that's the clever nature of children.
I had this conversation with a lady called Sarah, who's a specialist in sensory, and I asked her what's the most important thing when engaging with children with sensory activities, and she mentioned it's you engaging with the child. And don't also forget that, imagine someone giving you a game and saying play on your own. Yeah. I thought, I didn't think of that. So like you say, sometimes they don't need anything. Yeah. They just want to play with you or with something simple. And and it rounds me off to something else I was going to mention, because it's Christmas coming up. Not when this probably published, but there you go. I contacted my sister. She's got two under two beautiful nephews. And I said, right, I know you're going to want to ask me for a toy, but we both know they're going to play with the box and the wrapping more than whatever I buy.
Exactly. Yeah. No.
I guess, would you say you don't have to pay for all this expensive gear all the time for children? There's so much out there, isn't there?
There is. And I also would say go natural with the toys or the equipment that you provide for children. You can provide mud kitchens for children in the garden. As a child, that was one of my best memories, in the garden, stirring soil to make gravy. Picking petals to make perfume. Yeah. Not that it smelt the best, but it's there.
Yeah, you're getting them to use their imagination with what's in nature, and at the same time, they're in nature as well.
Yes.
Something I did want to ask you, actually, which is on piece but slightly off piece, is a lot of things are going online and interactive learning that way, but also there's a lot of children that missed a good chunk of this early development because of COVID. Yes. Now, it feels like we don't talk about it now because we all like to forget about it. But how did that, in your opinion, I'm keen to understand your perspective on this, did that affect a whole generation of children. Was it for like 2 years then? So we could have had a generation that didn't go into early years almost, or
That's
very
right.
little, or
Yeah.
only had a portion of it, or got it interrupted. There's many different sections of it, but
and also had limited time outside because
Yeah.
we were only limited to time outside. I think one thing we've tried to do at the university in our program is try and move away from referring to COVID and sort of putting things down to COVID. I do understand that there has been concerns around children's social and emotional development because they haven't mixed with children, other children. I do understand that there are concerns around children's speech, around that. But again, I see that as a unique situation that we have to work with that, that sort of environment. And I know that there's some fantastic work out there that is taking place.
So it's almost like, always remember that these children will always come to you with unique experiences.
Totally.
And we have to take it case by case as you would do regardless.
Yes.
So regardless of what may or may not have happened in the past, let's look at each child in a unique way and adapt to it.
I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, as we know with us as adults, your experiences shape you.
Yeah.
And I know a lot, like I said, along the way, there has to be support with that. We need that as adults.
Yeah.
But I think it's important.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. Like, don't, if we get bogged down in the weeds sometimes and use the skills we've got and let's make the best of it and work hard for these children
That's
like
right.
we would do.
Yeah. I know that settings are very time constrained.
Yeah.
And that does make it very, very difficult. But I think it's allowing yourself to stand back, reflect on what you have done, reflect on what you are going to do, and try and work with that.
Okay. I guess we should talk about your course.
Yes, please.
Okay. So if we could, I guess, break down, because it's all good knowing what a course's name is, but it may not be for everyone wants to know what it is, but a lot of people may need to know what the course is about and how varied all these courses are. One big thing I've learned through talking to lecturers and head of courses and stuff. So I know your course is amazing, but I guess, could you break down the different types of things it covers and the different types of people it would be great for maybe, and I guess maybe things it could lead to?
Yes, absolutely. We have a number of options.
Great stuff.
So we either have a 4-year program or a 3-year program. So if you don't have sort of the required UCAS points to come onto the 3-year program, we have what we call a foundation stage, which is quite a generic stage. So it's looking at sort of early childhood and education from a very broad perspective. Once you then come onto our program, as I said, it's early childhood studies, which is actually looking at childhood from 0 to 8 years. So quite a broad age range, really. And we're looking at children in different contexts. We're looking at sort of the very young child. We're looking at the child internationally. Lots of different perspectives, really, on childhood. And I think one of the things that is really quite unique about our program is that we have students that go into very, very diverse roles. So I would say that our students will either go into sort of educational settings, which is quite a traditional route.
Yep.
So they will probably become teachers or teaching assistants, maybe nursery, go and work within a nursery.
Yep.
But also they go into health and to social care settings.
Okay.
And I think that's really good about our program because there are very diverse roles. So they could go into a family support worker role. We have had some students that have gone into mental health practitioner roles. That's actually a role that is really emerging quite a lot at this moment in time. And then within the health route, they have gone to like play therapy teams within the health service or within hospitals. So I think it's really good for somebody who wants to try different things. with the opportunity to be able to maybe apply for different roles.
Okay.
So it's and like I say, I'm an alumni of the early childhood studies degree, so I will always shout about it.